Hey everyone, welcome. Today I want to talk about the 6 main tests that I run as an integrative healing practitioner to help my clients get to the root cause of their chronic and really tough health conditions that they haven't been able to find any results for with doctors and naturopaths. And if you're really struggling with your health, then you want to run these tests in a very specific order so that we can rebuild and rebalance your body before we get to the big guns, which is what everybody wants to get to, and that is detox and gut work. So the first thing that we have to do is make sure that your body is really strong and healthy. And to do that, what we want to do is find healing opportunities so that we can get in there and make sure that your vitamin levels are at an optimal range as opposed to just what we call a normal range. And we want to make sure that your hormones, your thyroid, everything is really well supported before we get into doing work on really moving those toxins and the pathogens and the bugs that we need to get to the root cause. So I just want to go through those tests today. There are 6 of them. The first one that we start with, well, there are three that we start with all at the same time, and those are genetics, blood work, and organic acids. So genetics will give us a lot of information about our detox pathways. It can tell us how efficiently they're working. It helps us understand our neurotransmitter processes, and it helps us synthesize all of the other tests to your specific genetic blueprint. The next thing that we look at is blood. So for blood work, we would look at thyroid, which is a complete thyroid panel. There are 9 tests altogether. Typically, the doctors just do maybe 1 or 2. If you're lucky, you might get 3 or 4. But we look at tests that include free T3, free T4, and reverse T3, which are all very, very important information that we need in order to make sure that your thyroid is not just running normally, but running optimally. So blood tests can give us really specific blood tests can give us that information. We also look at a lipid panel, an iron panel, so that we're looking at more than just your ferritin levels. We're looking at the complete picture. We run a comprehensive metabolic panel, which gives us information about your kidney function, your cardiovascular function, any potential liver dysfunction. And then blood also looks at inflammation and vitamin deficiencies like vitamin C and B12. So the next thing we look at in that kind of foundational trifecta that we like to get on board before doing anything else is your organic acid. And that gives us information about your neurotransmitter metabolites. Neurotransmitters are those brain chemicals that we talk about when we talk about things like anxiety and depression and dysregulation. We want to make sure that those are optimal. So that gives us information about the neurotransmitter metabolites. It can give us information about potential exposure to, say, toxic mold. It can tell us if your oxalates are overloaded. Those are the little crystals that often cause kidney stones, but it can cause a lot of other things in your body as well, such as brain fog, joint pain, and neurotransmitter dysfunction. So we want to see what your oxalates are doing. We want to look at your mitochondrial function, which can tell us if you have issues with how your body is burning fuel. It can tell us what your optimal fuel would be. Sometimes we see people who are on a ketogenic diet who are really struggling. They call it a keto flu. But what it really means is that your body is having a hard time extracting the nutrients that it needs and the energy that it needs from fats and protein. And maybe your best source of fuel is actually carbohydrates. And so the organic acids test can tell us a lot about how your body is burning its fuel. It also tells us about ammonia, which can be really important if you're dealing with brain fog and bladder issues and lots of other things. And it will tell us about your B vitamin levels as well. So once we have all of those tests, we will analyze those in conjunction with each other, and then we're able to provide you with a blueprint for your supplements so that we can really get your body balanced again. We can get it to a point where it is rebuilt, and then we can start looking at some deeper issues. In and amongst that, we're going to be looking at your diet and other things as well, but those are the 3 tests that we start with. So we go on the supplement protocol for those 3 foundational tests for about a month, and then we want to look at your hormone levels. And so we do the foundation test for a month because often if you have issues with hormone uh, hormone levels and cortisol levels and adrenal function, sometimes those can be really ameliorated by the foundation protocol. So a lot of the issues that we might be dealing with our hormones can be benefited by the protocols that we're putting in place for the first three tests that we ran. So often if you're going to a naturopath and they suggest looking at hormones right off the bat, well, you're missing the boat on that, because there is a lot of things that we have to do before we look at your hormones to make sure that everything is running optimally before we start looking at things like hormone replacement therapy and so on. So what does the Dutch test? First of all, what is the Dutch test? The Dutch test is dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. We do it for cycling women. We do it at a very specific time in the month. It takes place over 2 days. So that gives us a really complete picture of what your hormones are doing over the span of about 30 hours. And it can give us a complete picture of your hormone levels and also the detox capabilities, which is really, really important. We want to make sure that your estrogens, for example, are being eliminated through a healthy route. So we want to take a look at that as well and potentially fix that if there's an issue there. So the Dutch test will also tell us how our adrenals are doing by looking at our cortisol and our cortisol curve. We look at not just free cortisol, but we also look at metabolized cortisol, and that can tell us what we need to do if you have a low free cortisol but a high metabolized cortisol. What that's saying is that your body has enough cortisol, it's just not getting to the right place. So all we have to really do is look at fixing that as opposed to increasing cortisol. And that can be a root cause of fatigue and stress and inflammation. And this test can also help with weight management. So we want to look at that as well. Anytime you have issues with your cycle, or PCOS, we really want to get into the Dutch and dig into that and see what's going on there. Interstitial cystitis was a big one for me. We wanted to look at hormones there as well. So that can tell us a wealth of information, and then we can figure out whether or not we have to look at detox issues or whether hormone replacement is actually the best course of action for you. And then the next thing that we look at is gut work. So we're looking at 2 different stool tests. The first one that we do is called Para-Wellness. That one is looking at parasites and protozoa. Those are the easy things that we can get rid of the quickest, and we can get some big wins there. And then the next thing we will do is the GI map, and that looks at bacteria, H. pylori, and yeast, if yeast is still an issue for you at that stage. Oftentimes it has been fixed by just rebuilding and rebalancing your body. So if you're dealing with candida, a lot of times just by doing the foundation protocols and the Dutch will bring that back into play. But if we're still dealing with a little bit of excess yeast at that time, then that's when we will address that issue. So why do we leave gut work for the last? Well, that's because it's not going to work. A lot of people will come to us and say, I've done gut work, I've done detoxes and so on, and it's never worked for me. It's always made me feel worse. Well, that's because when we're releasing all of this stuff, all of this toxic sludge into our body before our body has been rebuilt and rebalanced, we can't handle it. Our detox pathways get overloaded, we start to feel crappy, and in the best case scenario, it's not going to work because your body is going to hold on to this. It's going to say, no, 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 you're not ready for this. We're not going to unleash that kind of a storm onto you until your body is ready to do that. So that's why all of these tests are important. That's why we use them all in a very specific path. We don't jump over and go directly for gut work. We want to make sure that we're doing this in the least stressful way possible so that we're putting the least amount of additional burden on your body that's already trying its best to heal. So I hope that was really helpful, understanding what it is that we do and why we do it. If you have any additional questions, please reach out, info@newperceptionwellness.com. You can come to our website by the same name or join us in our Facebook group. I'm going to link that right down below. Thanks so much for watching today, and I really hope that it's been a wealth of information for you.